In this video, I'm going to show you how you can blend oil pastel to create different colors and values. Oil pastels are a lot like the crayons you probably used growing up, but they're much thicker and richer than waxy crayons, so it's a lot easier to blend them to get different effects. When using oil pastels, you should use small circular strokes because this is the way that you can blend different colors together. So if I start with pink, I'm going to use small circular strokes to lay down a layer. Notice that the area I've shaded, it's pretty thick. It's a much different effect than you would get with crayons. And then, over time, I can lift up on my pressure till I've got a bit less going down on the paper. And then I'm able to switch to a new color. So I can grab the purple. I'm going to start with my circular motion on top of the pink that I had already shaded, and continue laying that down. Then I'm going to go back over the pink again, maybe carry it back a little bit further this time. This time I'm going very light. And then I switch back to my pink to help with the blending a little bit. And those circular strokes are going to be key to get things to blend together. So we've got a smooth transition. Then I can continue and I can grab a new color. I'll go with blue. I'm going to lay some blue down over the purple. Circular strokes. And continue on. Keep on blending. Go back into the purple area a little bit. Switch back to my purple oil pastel. Use small circular strokes to blend them together. There we go. I've got a gradient going from pink to purple to blue. Now I can blend any colors together, but it does work best with colors that are similar on the color wheel. So colors that are close to each other. So pink and purple are close together on the color wheel. Purple is made up of blue and red, so blue and purple will blend together really well. Switching to something on the opposite side of the color wheel, like orange, which is the complement of blue, will result in a muddier, browner color, which may be what you want in some cases, but not in others. Because you may need to dull down a blue, make it not quite as bright and vibrant. Now, your oil pastels are going to get muddy with other colors. Anytime that's happening to you, you are going to need a piece of scrap paper nearby, just something that's, an old sketch you don't need anymore, just a half piece of paper. Clean off your oil pastel on that scrap until it's clean. That's better. And then I'm able to keep blending. Now, sometimes you might run into a case where things are just looking too muddy, it's too blurry, it's all messy, you aren't liking how it's going. You are able to scrape off oil pastel fairly easily. You just need something like, say, a paper clip. And you can use that paper clip to scrape away some of the oil pastel that's there. It won't get rid of all of the color, but it will keep the oil pastel from getting quite so thick, and you can go back in and blend some more. When you're blending, the general rule of thumb is to start with the lighter color and then blend the darker color over it. So just think of the strength of the color. I always like to say, a little cheekily, which color would win in a fight? Usually cool colors are going to win over warm, so blue would be considered a stronger color than red or orange or definitely yellow. And then think something like orange would win over yellow, red would win over orange. It just takes a bit of practice to figure out which the stronger color is. But always lay down the lighter color first. Now, if you're trying to create some value, let's say I am drawing a sphere. So I'm just going to draw myself a little circle here, just as a guide. Remember, oil pastel will mostly cover your pencil lines, but light colors might be a bit transparent, so keep your lines light. So I've got a sphere there, and let's say this sphere is, the sphere is red. Now, hopefully you remember what the shading on a sphere looks like. I'm just going to start by laying down some general values. I'm going to have some shadow here. And then, since pink is just red with white, I can use a bit of pink to create some of those values. And then I know I'm going to have some white here. A bit of more red there. I am going to need a bit of reflected light down at the bottom. And then here's my core shadow, or my cast shadow. Okay, my general values are there. Now, I need to go back in with my circular strokes to do some blending. Actually, I might put in some white first. So my white strokes nice and thick where my highlight is. As I'm getting into the pink, it's starting to blend a little bit, so I'm going to use my circular strokes. Switch over to the pink. Now, a tip for lefties or anyone who needs to draw over an area they've already drawn with, you're going to get some oil pastel on your hands. It might be worth it to have a scrap piece of paper for you to rest your hand on so that you don't smudge your work. I'm using my circular strokes to help blend. I need to make sure that the pink also blends into the red. to my white to continue blending the highlight. I'm going to clean off the white a little bit. Pink. I'm not using a lot of pressure now, but I am sticking to my small circular strokes to get the blending right. Now I'm down in red a bit more. Switching over to red. Lighter pressure, going back up into the pink a little bit. To pink to blend. You're almost always going to want to use your lighter color to blend. And then, when I'm down into my core shadow, I might need to go even darker. I try to stay away from using too much black when I'm creating shadows, so I might use just a couple little lines of it, almost like I'm dabbing it in, and then I'll go back with my red and I'll blend it out a little bit. So circular strokes. It's almost like I'm pushing that black around on the page. If I've got too much black on my oil pastel, grab my scrap paper, clean it off, continue blending. And then the beauty of oil pastel is if you're not liking how it's looking, for example, this looks kind of smudgy and icky, I'm going to take some of it off with my paper clip. You can also use things like thumbtacks, dead pens can work well, or even like pen caps. Heck, you can use your fingernail if you want. Take off that black, and since I wasn't really liking how that black looked, I think it was a bit muddy, I'm going to try to use a bit of like purple and blue in there. So I'm just going to dab in a little bit of purple, dab in a little smidge of blue, and blend it out with my red. There we go, that's looking much better for a shadow. I also could have tried some green. That might have worked well too. I want to clean off my red again. Blend it out along the bottom. time. As you can probably see by now, oil pastels is a very back and forth process. Finish off that reflected light with a smidge of white. And last up is my cast shadow. Now obviously my table might be a different color than my sphere, so my table might be blue, but in this case I'm just sticking with more monochromatic palette. This time I'm going to go ahead and give green a try to darken that circle. Since green and red are complements, it should darken it nicely. So back blending with my red. In this case, since I want my table or my shadow to continue to look red, I'm blending with my red instead of with my green, even though red is probably my more powerful color in this case. I am using some straight strokes along this edge because I want a nice crisp line. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Oil pastel does have kind of a painterly, abstract quality to it. Alright, there it is. Let's start to blend it out a little bit more. The red and the pink. Back to red. And there we have it. So I have used my complements for the most part to create my contrast, to create my darker values, instead of using black, and be very careful with black because it's too powerful in a lot of cases.